Welcome to the Tippie Leads podcast. Stories from the University of Iowa's Tippie College of Business that will change the way you work and lead. I'm your host, Nick Westergaard. I teach at Tippie and lead our Story Lab program. Each season of Tippie Leads, we focus on a grand challenge in today's changing world of work. This season, we're looking at how you can be the CEO of your life. Previously, we talked about thinking like an investor and managing the trade-offs that come with pursuing your dream. But how do you keep your eyes on a long-term vision when the demands of the present are constantly tugging at your sleeve? Luckily, Amy Kristof-Brown is here to help. Amy is the Dean of the Tippie College of Business, a professor in management and entrepreneurship, and a leading expert on person-environment fit. As the leader of a top-tier business school, she's constantly balancing the Tippie of tomorrow with the operational needs of today. She knows exactly what it takes to maintain a strategic North Star while navigating the day-to-day realities of leadership. After that, we'll hear a story from Tippie student Brynn Pietzsch. Brynn's story takes us back to a leadership lesson she learned at a young age. And finally, we'll bring it all together with a final tip just for you. Ready? Let's get started. So this season on Tippie Leads, we've been exploring the idea of being the CEO of your life. As you look at the next generation of business leaders coming through Tippie, what are the specific self-leadership skills you believe are most critical for them to master?
Thank you, Nick, first of all, for having me here and for spending some time talking about a topic that I enjoy a lot, which is leadership. I specifically thought about this question from the perspective of self-leadership, because I think that's a very unique angle on this. It's thinking about how do you lead yourself before you begin thinking about how are you leading others. And so as I contemplated the question, my response on that is that one of the biggest skills I think that leaders have in terms of self-leadership is the capacity to regulate your energy levels and do it in a way that you are available and you are kind of full capacity to lead whatever it is that you're leading, whether it's a group or an organization. One of my favorite articles was an old Harvard Business Review article. It was called The Making of the Corporate Athlete. And it was solidly published 25 years ago, back in the early 2000s. And it talked about how training as a leader is very similar to training as an athlete. And what you often think of is that you have to just keep doing more and more and more every day. And the more and more and more every day leads to burnout, leads to, in athletes, it leads to injury. It can lead to physical illness. It's not the best method for actually training for high performance. And so what they recommend is doing more what a really good trainer would do for you, which is to kind of oscillate back and forth between you push yourself and then you take a bit of a break. And then you push yourself a little further and then you take a rest. You push yourself a little more. So you're always building capacity, but you're building it by also giving yourself time to decompress. And I think that allows a leader to continue to focus, to continue to push forward, but to do it in a way that they don't burn out as an individual. And that's critical for bringing your whole self to work or to your whatever it is, whether it's a group or a team. If you can't bring your full self to work because you're depleted and your resources are gone and you're burned out and you're struggling to keep your enthusiasm up, it's extremely hard to lead other people.
That's really interesting that you mentioned the idea of the corporate athlete and the comparisons there. Just this morning, I did a workshop for our Hawkeye football team. And sitting in the back afterwards as I was talking to people was one of the sports psychologists. And we were chatting, and she said, "Yeah, a lot of connections with what you were just talking about, and our athletes training as well." So I think that's thinking of it in terms of Energy regulation, I think, is something that, as I look back on the episodes we've recorded, I'm not sure has come up, because usually we tend to think in terms of what are all the things that I need to add, that I need to start doing, instead of not only resource management, but internal resource management too.
Yeah, and I think, maybe energy management's not the best term for it. I'm sure there's a great term, but it's about being able to continue to give back to yourself in ways that you're going to be able to be available to people. Being a leader is an extremely stressful role. You have a lot of decisions to make. You have a lot of people relying on you, and they are also relying on you to be optimistic and to be positive and forward thinking. And the ability to do that, if you're yourself depleted, it's just not there. And that starts to then lead to a spiral of losing patience and getting frustrated, and not having the emotional capacity to handle the things that are thrown your way. And so if you think about the energy that you have at the end of a race that you've depleted, you don't have a lot to kick in for another long term. You need some time to rest. And so I think about being a leader as a long-term commitment, and how you keep bringing yourself to that long-term commitment so that you can best lead people to the outcomes you're striving for.
So you've moved through almost every level of academic leadership, from professor and department chair to dean. As you kind of look at self-leadership in your own skill set, is there a skill that, like, at every step along the way, that's a handy part of who I am, that served you well? And is there something that you realized as you made those moves that you needed to develop?
Yeah, certainly. I've always been a person who is willing to share their ideas and their thoughts. So I don't know if that's confidence. I don't know if it's voice, but it's that willingness to engage in the conversation that's going on, the problem solving, and to share your ideas. And as I've worked more and more with leadership development, you often see very smart people in the room who are not willing to put their ideas out in front of the group. And it's a form of self-censorship in a lot of cases. They're holding their own ideas back. Often it's because they don't think that anybody else is going to agree with them, or maybe they don't think that their idea is worth bringing up, or they think that someone else is going to bring it up, so they don't do it. But for some reason, they don't share their ideas. And I have never had a problem with that. My elementary school report cards that said that talking too much and trying to, overshadow the teacher, those reports come back and haunt me a little bit. But they also indicated, right, that I was always willing to share my ideas and my thoughts about how things could be done differently, how things could be improved. And so I think that is something that for a lot of people, it comes very naturally to me. But for a lot of people, I think they really struggle with that. And that feeling like they deserve to be heard is just not really something that I ever think about. I just figure if I have an idea, I should share it. If it's a bad idea, people will tell me and they'll move away from it and they'll move on to something else. But I don't ever struggle with not being willing to share the idea. So that one's always kind of been with me. I have had people refer to that as confidence, or sort of a lack of self-doubt, right? That I should share ideas. The one that I would say I worked a lot harder on was listening and empathy, and being able to listen to a problem that someone brings and reflect back to them an empathetic response, rather than immediately jumping in to solve the problem. Because my immediate reaction is, oh, I think I know what to do about that. And maybe that comes from the first one, right? That confidence, or that willingness to, like, I can make this better. And so I want to do that very naturally. And what I learned along the way was that often people can solve their own problems, and they just want to hear that you understand them, and that you appreciate what they're going through and offer assistance as needed, but they may be solving their own problems. So I think the empathy side came a little harder to me because I'm such a jump in there and solve the problem kind of person.
You've got me thinking about, a prompt of asking people what their, what might have been on their report card growing up that might still serve them.
I think there's a lot of hints in those early reports from our teachers who knew us very well.
So, leading the Tippie of tomorrow involves a massive capital project, a new building renovation. It is a huge multi-year undertaking. And you talked about, energy and resource management. How do you take on something big that's going to be there for a while not losing sight of day-to-day responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a great question because when I started this job 5 years ago, we were not talking about building a new building. We weren't talking about an addition. All of that felt like something that didn't need to be done. We have a beautiful building, the Papa John Business Building. It is affectionately referred to by our older alumni as the new business building, but it has actually been here for 31 years. So the new business building, even though it is beautiful and it's been updated in a lot of ways, it's just not enough for us to be able to meet the needs of all of our growing student body. And so as we've been growing as a college and our undergraduate population grew 47% in the last 5 years. So we have a lot of new students. We have a lot of new faculty and staff to work with those students, and we just didn't have the space. So it became clear after about 2 years into the role that more space was going to be needed. And we took on the task of saying, what should that space be? Do we want to build a brand new building? Do we want to try to take over different parts of campus that already exist? So you start thinking about the problem that's there to be solved, which is we need the space. And it became clear after about a year of trying and exploring different options that what we were going to need to do was be to build some space, but to also do it in a way that capitalized on what we already had as our resources and resources that were on campus. So for those of you who know the campus, the Papa John Business Building sits on a green space that also is shared by a very historic building, Gilmore Hall. And Gilmore Hall was built in 1910 and has served as a variety of different buildings, including the original law school building. And so we had the opportunity to take over that building, to completely modernize it and to connect it to the space that we already had. So I loved the fact that it was a sustainability project in the sense that we were reutilizing existing resources, but we knew it was going to take a lot of capital to make it happen. And that became very clear in our strategic planning that was going to have to become one of the biggest priorities. And when it comes to resource, this is not something that's being paid for by someone else. So we are getting university support, but it is predominantly a philanthropic campaign. And so that is one of the dean's primary responsibilities is to raise the resources. So not only was it plan the building and what we needed, working with the architects, working with our faculty, staff, and students, but it was also going out and raising the money for that campaign. So to make space, I had to clear off a couple of other things. I would say I've said no to a couple of additional projects that I've been asked to lead. I cut back a little bit on any other philanthropic work that I was doing in the community because I knew all of my attention had to be focused on raising resources for this building. And I do spend a lot of weekends working on this particular project. So some of it requires deep thought, and I can do that if I'm, spending 2 or 3 hours on a weekend poring over blueprints. It also helps to have a strong team that I've assembled around me that works with me on the projects. And we have a terrific project lead here at the university. Her name's Martha Stokes. I'll give a shout out to her. She's been wonderful at helping to shepherd that project through all of the intricacies of the university requirements, which would be something that I just didn't have any skill for. So she's been a great partner. Our architects have been wonderful, and our teams, whether it's from our Tippie senators that we have serving on the building committee to our operating officers, our faculty liaisons, all of those pieces help make the decision making easier. But it is a big piece, and I've had to clear some things out of the way to make it happen. I will say one of the benefits is that when I'm out speaking with alumni and they say, what's your highest priority? It always is at the top of the list, partly because we're in a short time frame on this. We needed to raise the approximately $54 million in capital that we have to raise for the project. We needed to raise it in about a year and a half. And so it's been a very concerted, focused effort from a lot of great, talented people.
So earlier this season, we started talking about vision and defining your vision. And vision's a big part of the leader's job. And as you talk about that, I almost wonder if there's an intersection between this huge project and your vision for the Tippie of tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started 5 years ago in this role, I articulated my vision as having the Tippie College be open for business. And so we've done a lot of things over the last several years that have done that, expanding experiential classes where students work with companies and real data sets, increasing our opportunities to work with companies in the region, adding a career services unit to our college so that we have a better pipeline to companies, because that's one of the key things they want from us is talent, and making sure that we're increasing our advisory board impact, all of those things to make us more open to business. So when it came time to plan the building, we knew we needed more than just more classrooms and more faculty offices. That would just be a vision for more space, and more space is not incredibly inspiring to people. But how could the new space that we added help us be more open to business was something that we've really thought a lot about. So in the new buildings, the new campus area, we will have a dedicated space for our career services team so that we can bring in companies more easily and connect them with students. We have dedicated space for our centers and institutes, which are a lot of the connective tissue between the academic programs that we run and what we're doing in terms of outreach to organizations. A great example is our Vaughan Institute for Risk Management and Insurance. That is a center that has just magnified our ability to bring in internships, guest speakers, do projects for the insurance sector. There's been a lot of outreach that's going on and back and forth. So we now have dedicated spaces in the new building for those types of things. And we've added innovation labs in the areas of communications, AI, sales, entrepreneurship, and then also student success. And so we've added lab space where we can really bring in companies, we can have opportunities to interact with them, and we can use AI in a way that we're bringing their problems and their people directly into these lab spaces to interact with our students.
I'm Kira Ellerbrook. I am a student here at Tippie, as well as a producer on the podcast. I am also a peer mentor for Story Lab. So today, Amy talked about skills for leading the Tippie of the future. However, sometimes our past experiences can help us lead as well. So for today's student story, Tippie student Brynn Pietzsch tells us about her first lessons in leadership from her high school synchronized swimming team. Fun fact, in addition to being a student, Brynn also works in the dean's office.
I was a synchronized swimmer for 6 years of my life. Now some of you may be thinking, people actually do synchronized swimming? Yes, it's true. The flowery suits, nose plugs, swim caps, pointed toes are all real. My journey started back in 6th grade when I joined a competitive team because of my older sister's influence on our high school's team. I fell in love with the rigorous practices and the sense of accomplishment that came with it. I loved how it was both a team and an individual sport, where you had to be in sync with your team, but you couldn't look at them. Otherwise, you're a count behind. When my sister graduated from her synchro career, I didn't hesitate to continue mine. Our high school's team, called the Tiger Lilies, is an all-inclusive team and the longest-standing club at my high school. As a high school freshman in 2020, I was eager to join the team, except that there was no team, because the pandemic took over and the season was canceled. After the pandemic, the long-standing Tiger Lilies coach retired, and the club became student-run. The club also became much smaller after the pandemic, but the student-run performances persisted through my sophomore and junior years of high school, with much credit to the experienced upperclassmen. This brings us to my senior year of high school, where I'm one of 3 seniors on a team of 25. One of the seniors had 1 year of experience, and the other was completely new. This was my first year as the most experienced senior captain of the longest-standing club at my high school, where I determined the future of the club without a coach. There was talk of the season being canceled because the future was so unclear. I couldn't let this happen, I thought to myself. I was passionate about the continuation of the sport and club I loved so much. So I dove into responsibility. I became the coach, recruiter, advertiser, choreographer, spokesperson, and the DJ somehow. My free time consisted of crafting and practicing routines, organizing music, cutting the music, contacting the team, and teaching new swimmers. But I realized I was virtually doing everything alone. My fellow teammates tried to help when possible, but they were inexperienced about the niche sport of synchronized swimming. The parent board was helpful in many ways, but again, they had limits. The season was long and stressful, but show day finally arrived. The letterboard lit up our theme. Tiger Lilies, take it back, it said. The props, vibrant music, bright spotlight, and swimmer smiles made show day magical. The performance truly brought my hard work and vision to life. Truthfully, there were many challenges, and sometimes I asked myself if this was all worth it. Looking back, it is bittersweet, because I put all my effort and time into the club, and it was a lot of work. But I would say it was worth it. I felt so incredibly accomplished that I was able to create something far beyond my perceived capabilities and continue the lifetime of the club at my high school. Synchronized swimming, especially my senior year, taught me how to be a resilient leader, teammate, and overall stronger person. It taught me that sometimes being the best leader requires leaning on others and asking for help. Today, the Tiger Lilies Club is thriving at my high school with a full-time coach they hired as soon as I graduated. Sometimes I wonder if the club would be what it is without me. Well, I don't know how to humbly answer that. I will say that I silently carry the feeling of accomplishment with me for my time in synchronized swimming. So now when people ask me to tell them a fun fact, I say, I was a synchronized swimmer. But for me, it's deeper than a fun fact. It's a sport that greatly shaped me and began my journey as a leader. Thank you.
Let's go back to our guest one last time for a final tip E for you to remember in your work.
So I guess I would leave our listeners with the idea that as a leader, first and foremost, it's important for you to be able to bring your best self to work every day. And the ability for you to do that is going to depend on you taking care of yourself. So whether it is practicing gratitude that gets you in the right mind frame for the day, whether it is taking some time to not be working so that you can bring yourself back in a way that is energized and focused, whether it's surrounding yourself with people that help you make hard decisions, but also build you up, rather than tear you down. Taking care of yourself as a leader is going to allow you to bring your best possible set of talents to whatever job and challenge is in front of you. And that just means that you're bringing your authentic best self to work, and that can make an incredibly powerful leadership journey.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Tippie Leads. Big thanks to Dean Amy Kristof-Brown for sharing her perspective on leading for the future while staying grounded in the present, and to Brynn Pietzsch for sharing her story. As always, thanks to Kira Ellerbrook for producing our Student Stories segment, and to the Tippie Marketing Communication team for supporting the show. Next, it's our season finale. Now, I don't know about you, but I have taken pages and pages of notes from all of these episodes, and frankly, I'm a little overwhelmed. Luckily, we're bringing it all together with Tippie alum, advisory board member, and leadership expert, Nicole Johnston. Nicole's an author who knows how to take big ideas and turn them into a clear plan. She's going to help us take all of these insights from the season and put them together into something actionable, not overwhelming, so that you can truly step into the role of being CEO of your life. You're not going to want to miss the big finish. I'll see you there. This has been Tippie Leads, a podcast from the University of Iowa's Tippie College of Business. To learn more about our faculty guests, their research, and more, go to tippie.uiowa.edu/Tippie Leads. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or coworker. Or better yet, subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And if you're feeling generous, consider leaving us a rating or review to help others find the show. This is Nick Westergaard signing off. On behalf of everyone at Tippie, thanks for listening, and go Hawks!